All right, hey everybody. Tuesday night. It's 7 o'clock ish. We're in there close.
Close is good.
So, as I promised, we got Mr. Rodney Wright with us tonight,
Hello, everybody.
and we're continuing with the WMC Cares, WMC Community Involvement. We have one contested race, basically in the Republican primary for Gibson County this year, and that is the race for the sheriff's office. We also do not have an incumbent this
Correct.
year. Um,
First time in 12 years, or at least, yeah.
12, 16 years,
Yeah,
something like that, yeah. Um,
or longer, been longer than that, yeah.
so, um,
Gonna be a new sheriff.
there's going to be a new sheriff.
We all know there's gonna be a new sheriff.
Only question's who. Now, on the Republican, under the Republican ticket, we got Cody Childress and Rodney Wright running for the Republican nomination, which we'll vote on in May. And then in August, we'll have the general election, where the winner of that will take on the two independent candidates.
Correct.
So we need to get, people need to come out and vote in the primary.
Please go vote May 5th. Early voting starts April the 15th.
And I'm going to throw this in there. Bonnie Fritz,
I met him, good guy.
you like the guy with Tourette's.
Yeah,
Goodness.
fantastic guy.
I love Monty. And hopefully I'll be getting to see him in the next couple of 3 weeks, something like that.
He's gonna. I know of an event. I don't need to commit. I don't think I'm authorized to commit, but I think he's got a couple of events. He's going to be back in the county here visiting at different things. So
I bet we're doing another TFA event. I always get this when I have to get my okay, here's a TFA advertisement for tonight. The John Rich Legacy and Liberty event. I think it's 120 tickets available, $1,000 a head, held at John's home. Proceeds go to TFA to help back the One Big Beautiful lawsuit to get rid of the NFA registry. I would not be surprised at all to see Monty there.
based on what I know, I would say you probably would be correct.
Then, of course, John's going to play. He and his band. He brings his band in that night. They play a concert.
There at his home.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, when you go up
Oh,
third floor,
fantastic! Yeah.
when you're up the third floor, it's like his own little bar. They've got the saddle from
Uh-huh.
Urban Cowboy that they do the final dance under
Yeah.
in Gillies. That actual saddle is hanging
Really.
Yes.
in his
Very
house.
cool.
He can swing it.
Yeah, he said it was a gift.
Yep.
But John will be wandering around that night. He's a super nice guy. He don't avoid people.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot of There'll be a lot of interesting folks there. Last year ended up doing the auctioneer part, and being on the stage. I've got nothing but lights hitting me in the face. I can't see in here.
Right.
So I've got Chris Todd and Jared Penner and a couple others calling bids. All I can see is here and here. And right here where I cannot not see him, no matter what I do, I cannot not see him, is Dave Ramsey. And I'm begging people to spend money, and he's going,
Yeah.
I can't watch.
Yeah.
Come on, you want to give me another 5,000, 5,000? You want to give me 5,000 more? Yeah, you do. Look over Dave's like. So it's a good time.
Yeah.
If you guys want to come up that night, come on. But anyway, there's our TFA advertisement for tonight. So Rodney,
Yes, sir.
we're gonna do this informal,
Sure.
just like with Cody last week. I gave you my notebook when you got here.
Mhm. No gotcha questions
gotcha
is what
questions.
you said. That's fine. Hit me with them.
We're gonna hit some
We're
hard
good.
questions, but we're not gonna hit gotcha questions.
Well, a guy running for this office ought to be prepared to answer hard questions. We're going to have to deal with hard decisions all the time.
So, just for everybody watching, tell us about Rodney.
Sure, I'd be glad to. First, thank you for inviting us tonight and hosting the event, and thank you for inviting us to the podcast. I'm a lifelong Gibson Countyan. My wife, Shelley, who's here with me, we've been together, will be 27 years. We've got 2 grown sons. You can't do this kind of thing. You can't campaign without family support.
No.
This is a family event, this campaigning is. She's been great help. My mom and stepdad have been absolute wonderful help. I've got 2 grown boys. We've got 2 grandsons. I'd really like to talk to you about them all night long.
We
but
know if we knew how grand the grandkids were, we would have skipped the first ones.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I've been here in the county my whole life. I began my law enforcement career here in Gibson County at the Rutherford Police Department nearly 31 years ago. We're going on 31 years this year that I started there and worked part-time.
J.D. Milligan?
J.D. Milligan was the chief there. Yes, sir.
Oh, Memphis.
Old
PD
Memphis
Communications.
PD guy, yeah. And, you know, it was, I was a kid, no connection to law enforcement, nobody in the family. We had a family friend who was in law enforcement, and I guess maybe he's who kind of turned me on to being interested in it. And so as soon as I turned 21, I started trying to find me something to, you know, to explore, to get into. And so Rutherford gave me a shot there part-time. I worked there, I think, about 3 years part-time. And then, of course, I live at Yorkville, the New Bern Police Department. I knew some of those guys down there through in-service training. And they had an opening and hired me in 98. And I left there in 2018. I started investigating there at New Bern in 2009. I was assigned to the Drug Task Force there in Dyer County, Dyer and Lake. That West Tennessee Drug Task Force is Gibson, Crockett, and Haywood, Dyer Lake, and Shelby. It used to be some other counties, but that's still what it is now. That's what it was when I was assigned to it. I was assigned to that for about 7 years, so we did a lot of undercover drug work there. Of course, like I said, I've been investigating since 2009, and I've investigated all sorts of crimes from simple assaults and thefts to burglaries and sexual assaults and unfortunately homicides and crimes against our children. I've got a vast experience, broad experience in investigating many types of crimes. I've started out in patrol, of course. I've supervised patrol. I've supervised investigations. I tell folks I'm the senior investigator over the investigations, kind of help those guys. I'm not, our sheriff's department at Weakley County is where I'm at now. I'm at Weakley County, and I'm an investigator there. And I call myself the senior investigator because I'm the oldest guy up there in investigations. We got a fantastic group of guys that I work with there. And
Set the microphones back up.
knocked the mics down, didn't we, when we
Yes.
hit the table? So I've been up there in Weakley County for about 6 years, and fantastic group of guys we work with there. Looking forward to the opportunity to work with a fantastic group of folks back here at home. This is I ran for sheriff in 14, and we lost by about 1.6 or 1.7% of the vote then in 14. And that's when Sheriff Thomas took the office. And so I was going to run in 22. Got diagnosed with a big old bad cancer. We beat that. Good Lord was kind to me and spared my life. And I had fantastic doctors and fantastic family to make me go to the doctor and find out what was wrong with me. And so the doctor released me about 1.5 years ago and said, continue planning to live your life. And so I came home and told my wife, if I'm still alive in 26, I'm running for sheriff again. So here we are.
So here we are. Yeah, a good friend of mine, lifelong friend of mine, was in here earlier in the week, and You know him, Tony Trimble.
Yeah. Yeah.
I said, Tony, what do you think about this Rodney Wright guy? I don't know him. Tony said, well, I like him. He's a cancer survivor like me.
We get a bond when that happens.
Unfortunately, Tony's is back.
Oh, I did not know that. I did not.
He just told me. But he said,
Hang in there, Tony.
he said, and this from Tony meant something to me. He said, there's a lot of people I wouldn't work for, but if Rodney asked me to come to work for him, I'd go
Wow.
tomorrow.
Well, thank you.
So
That's a compliment.
Tony and I literally grew up from the crib together. Our backyards run together.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Tony's Tony.
We met after finished my treatment, or maybe right before. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But there's definitely when you experience something like that, not to belabor it, but you find other fellow folks that have experienced it, and you know, if you haven't experienced it, your family just don't know. And then those that you meet, I have several friends that are battling it right now, and I hope that they all are as successful as we have been and as blessed as we've been.
So, okay, guys, I think we have a pretty good introduction section there. We're going to start moving into questions, candidate questions. We have the comments open on YouTube. We have the comments open on Facebook. If you have a question, type it in. We'll have people watching the screen, and they will let us know that there's a question that's came in, and we'll get your question asked.
Just so you know, William Wood said he loves this.
Who was that?
Will Woods.
Will. Good deal.
You know,
Hey,
Will,
Will. Yeah.
former Atlanta Braves
Yep.
baseball pitcher.
He played.
and
He and
New York
our
Mets,
youngest son Brant. They played baseball together at Peabody.
We love Will.
He's
Yes.
a good kid.
and,
Grown man now. I think of these.
Yeah.
kids
He is,
being
I mean-
kids.
He is.
Yeah.
long, lanky young man.
I haven't seen him in years. you know.
Really tall.
I'm confident I would know who he was when I saw him.
Yeah.
I see his granddad and grandmother quite a bit.
So the forum is open. You guys are encouraged to please. Here's your opportunity. Ask the questions you want to ask. My first question, I think you kind of just went ahead and covered it in your introduction.
Okay.
Emma Jo Wright said, "Hey, Uncle Rod."
Hey, girl.
So I'm going to interrupt y'all. So just so you
That's
know,
fine. I was going to ask you, as an individual, what do you see about your individual character that qualifies you for the job? I think you touched a lot on that in your introduction.
Well, yeah. Just to sum that up, it takes a unique person, first of all, to be a police officer or any emergency responder. Service member or whatever. It's not for everybody.
No.
It is. I've put my whole career into this now, and I still have a long way to go. I'm just 51. I've got I hope a lot of years left. I hope that God is kind to me and lets me stay healthy, so I can continue to work. I live after what I experienced with my own health. I think everybody matures as they go through life. But one of the biggest things that I've learned in the last 4 or 5 years is that life can be very short. It's very unpredictable. And you have to live every day like it could be your last day. And you really figure out what matters to you the most. The things that I used to worry about. My wife gets upset with me sometimes because I don't worry about the things that she does anymore. But I focus on the important things, and that's my family and my personal faith. At the end of this life, that's what nobody's going to talk about all the things you did. They're going to talk about your family is who's going to really, that's what it's all for, is at the end of somebody told me the other day, they said, we live our entire life trying to prepare those that we can't live without for them to live without us. And so my personal character, I guess, is I believe in working hard. I believe in what's doing right all the time. I believe in treating people the way I want them to treat me. I will be as fair to anybody as they will let me be. and at the end of the day, or at the end of my career, or whatever life deals me, is I want people to be able to say, I knew that guy. He always did what he said he was going to do for me, and if he couldn't do it, then I will explain to you why I can't fulfill whatever I told you I was going to try and do. And I believe that's just a personal goal that everybody ought to try to set. If we just try to do what we're supposed to do the right thing, make the right decisions.
Got a couple of questions.
Okay,
Well, they're not waiting, are they?
No.
come on.
Scotty Betts is asking, how will you work with city police departments, and will you tackle the drug issues in Gibson County? I can't.
Well, thank you for the question, Mayor Betts. And we have we've known one another for years and have worked together for years. I believe that without having a solid, good working relationship with every agency in this county, that I know most all the chiefs, I think, that we've at least had conversations and had the opportunity to meet and talk. We've already started working on, I don't want to wait till September 1st to try to say, hey, what can we do to make things better? We've already been talking with some of the police chiefs about what I would like to do. I want to work with them. Gibson County is a unique county. It's got 10 incorporated towns, 10 police departments, especially on the north end, and in Medina. Even though Medina is growing, they have a small department, for the per capita that they have. And we're going to work diligently with all the local law enforcement agencies, with all the police departments. We're going to work together as a team. We're not going to fight with one another. We're not going to have territorial wars. We're going to work together for the common cause to provide public safety to our citizens and to the people traveling through our county. And we're going to complement one another and not butt heads. That gets us nowhere. So I'm confident that if we need something from those towns, that they're going to cooperate with us. And I can assure you that if I'm the sheriff, we're going to cooperate with every town. The drug problem, tackling that, we're going to work with those agencies consistently with that. We're going to work with the drug courts. We're going to work with the DA's office. We're going to strive to make the best cases that we can make. You and I talked a little bit about this earlier. It's our job as police officers to make the best case no matter what it is. And so, of course, I have a lot of years of experience of doing undercover drug work. And, we have access to the drug task force. I would like for us to talk about maybe building an inter-county task force of sorts, if it were possible for us to work together, to meet regularly, to have open lines of communication, and to train together, and to work toward the common goal of let's do all we can do to fight the drug problem that our county and state faces. It's a never-ending battle.
More questions.
Okay.
Heather Webb Vestal,
Okay.
considering the sheriff and district attorney must have a functioning relationship to take care of the citizens of our county, how would you classify your relationship with our current DA?
This is Heather Vestal.
Mhm.
Thank you for the question, Heather. I have a personal relationship with General AG. You and I have talked about that today.
He was here today.
He was here today. Came by to see us here today, and I appreciate him coming by. Every law enforcement officer, it would behoove them to have as good as possible a relationship with the district attorney as possible. They prosecute the cases. We make the arrest. We bring them the case. We do the legwork. We should be asking them, what do we need to have successful prosecutions? General AG and I have spoken about that numerous times throughout this campaign and before. I reached out to him before I ever announced that we would be running, and we started building that relationship. We're not going to have a contentious relationship. We're going to have a working relationship. I want the officers of the sheriff's office, and I would encourage the officers and the chiefs of every agency in the county to work with your attorney general. That's who's going to court. If you don't have an open communication between you, you can't possibly be successful. I hope that gives you some confidence, Heather, that if General AG weren't the district attorney, if he weren't the DA, I would work with whoever was in office. I work very well with the attorney general in the district that I work with now. I work with all of his assistants and him very well, and I will continue to work well with him. Anybody else, or are we back
Not
to,
yet. We're back to Tom.
We're back to the notebook.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll interrupt the notebook at any given time for
Thank you for the questions.
questions coming in online. I mean, it's kind of obvious what I do for a living.
Sure. You know, I've already told you, when I'm through playing this police business, this is what I want to do in my old age. Keep
Hold
me a
on.
spot.
Hold on.
and
Larry Morris said, I want to know if you
Hey,
will
Larry.
let Gibson County constables papers. The current sheriff lets one constable
okay,
receive
I
papers.
got it.
Say,
Larry's
yeah.
asking is currently one constable gets all the papers. Is what he's saying. As sheriff, would you break those up? What would your position be on that? So he asked the same question.
Okay. Hey, Larry, hadn't seen you in a good long while. I hope things are going well for you. Thank you for the question. Larry, you may or may not remember the years I was working down in Dyer County, I served as a Gibson County constable here for 8 years, for 2 terms, and enjoyed that. Constables are unsung heroes. Everything that they do is a pure cost to them. I personally think, Larry, that it's the responsibility of the clerk to issue the papers to the sheriff, or I think the statute says that they shall issue the papers out. I personally do not have any issues working with the constables. I want to work with the constables of Gibson County. They're going out there and doing what they need to do to get elected. They're paying for their own bond. Everything is a pure expense to them. And they obviously want to serve their county, or they wouldn't be doing it. Nobody today is going to spend money that they shouldn't spend, or don't, if they didn't want to. My plan is to embrace the constables, to offer convenient training for the constables, and to have a working relationship. As we talked earlier, I believe the statute says that there shall be half as many constables as there are county commissioners. So if our number's right, it should be 12.
Correct.
And 12 constables. And my hopes and ambitions and goals would be that we're going to work with them, embrace them, use them to the best of our ability, and that they are welcome and going to be welcome to train with us. And as long as they keep up their in-service training and will work with us, I'm not their boss, they're elected, but I'll be more than happy to work with the constables any way that I can.
And we will, as far as throw a shameless plug in. As far as, because we realize that the constables are self-funded.
Sure.
So,
They used to be a state constitutional office until I think the 70s. I think is when they changed that in our Constitution, that they were, that they weren't named as a constitutional officer. I think, don't hold me to that, but I think I'm right about that. They've been around, constable been around a long time.
Been around longer than Popo.
Yeah. Do you have some more? You said
Got
yeah.
2 more questions.
Okay. I'll try to be briefer.
Heather Vestals against you said, what do you think about his apparent soft on crime approach? Example, soft plea deals, diversion, and everyone goes to rehab. Talking about the DA.
Talk about the general's office, attorney general's office. I'm not working in this district. I currently do not work alongside General AG. So I would have to know specifics about cases. It wouldn't be fair for me to, I'm not an attorney, first of all. I'm not a prosecutor. I'm not an attorney. I know that the law provides some people are entitled to diversion. You know, first-time offenders are entitled to diversion. Some cases, you know, I'm confident that the judges and the DA's office, and like I say, I'm not picking a single case because I'm not privy to those cases, but I'm confident that the judges and the DA are doing everything that is compliant within the guidelines of the law. You know, I know sometimes we want to throw the book at somebody and sometimes their criminal history. There's a lot that goes into how somebody gets sentenced. The first time offender for a drug offense is entitled to certain probations and treatment therapies and things like that, that a guy who's a 20-time offender may not be entitled to. So I'm not.
I think the people, and I'll speak here, just are sick of 20-time offenders.
Like I said,
Why,
I'm not.
you know,
I'm not privy to a case, but I would be too.
You know, you go out here, you as the sheriff, your deputy, arrest a man, makes a solid case, and the DA goes, oh, probation.
Well,
You know,
I
no,
think.
you know, you never make believers out of people that way.
Well, some people are slow learners. I think that in order for us to be successful in prosecuting criminal activity in this county, we're going to have to work together. We're going to have to come together and be the glue for one another that says, you know, for me with the deputies and the investigators there, if the good people of this county elect me as their sheriff, I'm going to ensure that our deputies and investigators have the opportunity to get as much training as they can get. I don't want to leave out our COs either. They play a vital role.
Oh, we're going to get those very shortly.
They play a vital role in the justice system. But it's going to be the job of the chiefs and the sheriffs and the DA to make sure we as law enforcement officers bring the absolute best cases we can bring. The only way we're going to do that is to be on the phone and say, hey, General, this is what I've got so far. This is what I'm working on. What do we need to make this a more solid case? Is there anything else that I can do? And then if they tell us, check this, this, and this, then it's our job to try to get those things. If he tells me 3 more things and I call him back and say, General, I can only get you 2 of them. Let's try this thing. And that's where General AG and I are right now. We've agreed we're going to build the best cases, that we're going to work together. And if, you know, sometimes, listen, if you have a weak case, police officers make split-second decisions to make an arrest. Doesn't mean that the case is over. It's our job then to continue the investigation.
Correct.
And keep finding evidence and bring it. And sometimes we just can't make a strong case. Sometimes we just don't make a strong case. Shame on us. And if that's the case, then sometimes a plea deal might be better than losing a case in trial. But I believe that it's a concerted effort between the victims. The victim needs to be in agreement. I accept this. I'm okay with this. Then law enforcement, and then the courts will accept what is statutorily correct.
I think what we find out, and again, we're going to get off this and we're going to move on.
Sure.
Is the victim gets left out in Gibson County a lot.
Well, I'm not.
And you're not privy to that.
I'm not privy to that, but I can assure
You're
the
not
good
privy to
citizens
that.
of this county, I will provide total and absolute care for our victims and witnesses.
You know, so I'm not, that's just one of the aggravations
Sure.
that I'm sure if you're elected,
Hey, you
you'll
know,
hear.
I'm working a burglary right now that I've located property in two different locations, 2 businesses, legitimate businesses that bought these items.
Right.
Those folks that bought those items, they're victims too.
Yeah.
You know, if you trade for a gun in here
Happened to me last
that,
week.
that
Oh, yeah.
gets stolen, and I come in here and I find out it's here, or you get a hit on it because you're going to sell it to somebody else, and I come in here, I have the authority to take it. It's stolen property. It's entered. But it's my job too, as the sheriff, to make sure, even as an investigator like I am now, it's my job to make sure you as the victim, you're a victim now too. It's our job to make you whole, and we have to figure out how to do that.
Um,
You were in a legitimate business deal.
well, I mean, we had one that was really weird. Really, really weird. It actually popped clean when we ran it.
Mm-hmm.
When we took the gun in on trade, we run for the TBI. We ran
Yeah.
the numbers, which now we have with TBI we have the ability to do that with the background check system.
Sure.
Pop clean. Okay, no problem.
When you
Kind
took
of
it in.
Yeah,
Right.
rare, fairly rare pistol. Not the kind of thing thugs would want to steal.
Sure.
Normally. Went to sell it, come back stolen.
So it probably got reported and entered
It was reported in
between time.
95,
94.
But it
94.
but it got missed in the entry. Wow.
And that does happen.
That's above. That would be above us.
No, I'm
Yeah.
just saying. No, that ain't got nothing to do with the sheriff's department. It's
No.
just,
But
so
it
yeah,
happens.
all we can do now is we provide the information to, let's say you were the investigator, you come in and say,
Yeah. Well, years
here
ago,
you go, this is who I got it from.
I had a case very similar to that. We had a rifle stolen many years before. I forget exactly how long, and it popped up in Middle Tennessee in a pawn shop, and in the transfer, of course we traced it all back, and the last 2 or 3 people that had owned it legitimately. They just traded for it out on the street, which is perfectly legal, and things like that. And it actually, Shelley and I were actually in Nashville on a personal trip, and they called me and said, "Hey, if you're still there, can you stop by Dixon and pick that up?" And we did. And that guy was glad to get his gun back. It was a gun his dad had given him.
And even when, so you're the one that ends up losing, because most times the business ends up losing. That's just,
Well, to all
How
you
it
business
is.
owners out there, I'm going to work hard
but
to include you as victims and to try to help make you whole too. And get
when you see
restitution
people
for it.
get something like that back, and the fact that they got it back, I'll be honest, it don't leave the bad taste in your mouth.
Right.
Okay, yeah, cost me a few $100, but what does leave the bad taste in your mouth is when you find that gun in a sheriff's auction.
Yeah. Well, if it ain't legal, ethical, and moral, we ain't doing it.
Okay.
Hey, that's my line.
What's that?
Legal, ethical, or moral.
That's we're going to stand on that. If it's not legal, ethical, and moral, it's not happening under my watch.
Jacob Leach, his question is: If you talk to a deputy in Gibson County, out of many complaints, 2 mainly stand out: their pay and their health insurance price, especially the family plans. If elected, what would be your plan to fix these issues? With a major tax increase, there is an unusual turnover rate for Gibson County, and I personally believe these issues are a major player.
Thank you for the question, Jacob. I'm not privy to the insurance. I hear a lot about that. I believe that that is a county commission issue. I think that the heads of departments and agencies are. We can take that battle up, but I don't know that as the sheriff that's a battle that I could win. Insurance that's a county commission thing. Pay. I agree 100% that the pay for our sheriff's department employees is behind. We're currently working on a study right now, a pay scale study for the neighboring counties, and I know that they're behind every county that touches the borders. I have some plans of how to fix that. If we are fortunate enough to get elected, and I believe we've got a really, really good shot of getting into office, we're going to come in 2 months into a budget that we had nothing to do with. So we're going to have to play with the cards we're dealt with. But I believe that we can save some money on some things, that we will be able to hopefully show that savings and be more physically responsible And if we have to go and ask for more money for their pay, then I'm willing to do that because they're behind on pay. Nobody wants to hear about more taxes. There's ways we can do it. There are things we can do, apply for grants, get grant money, take advantage of that can subsidize in other ways so we can use our budgeted money on different line items. I believe we can make that happen. He had like 3 parts to that. What I think he talked about the insurance. He talked about the pay. Was there something else? Oh, the turnover. Didn't he talk about
Yeah.
turnover? I agree. There's a lot of turnover. I think, of course, there's a lot of good folks that have stayed there for years. They've worked their career there, and my hat's off to those guys for staying. I think that if you have good management, I think that if you treat your employees right, sometimes it's not even about pay. Sometimes it's just about we have a fantastic work atmosphere. And, you know, people, if they have the opportunity to get trained the way they need to be trained and want to be trained and to advance their careers, and if we can work on getting their pay up, and we're going to work on that. It's not an empty promise. We're going to work on it. We have to. If we're not able to recruit good people, then we're surely not going to be able to retain good people.
Yep.
And recruitment and retention is huge. It's cheaper for us to be able to retain people than having to constantly have the turnover to train. We're paying you to train you, now we lose you. We pay you, we're training you, we lose you. It just makes sense. We've trained you, let's keep you a while. Let's get our money back.
Has the DA contributed any funds to your campaign? If so, will you tell us why he thinks you're the person for the job?
Full disclosure, he has made a contribution to my campaign. It's in my financial disclosure report required by law. I don't remember the exact amount. You can find it, go to the Election Commission and just ask them for my financial report. It's all there. Every penny that we spend and that we get, we report. My personal opinion of why he chooses me, that he thinks I'm the best for the job, is I think he's making the right choice. You know,
I'd have been real disappointed if you give any other.
anything other than that,
If you said anything other than that, I would have been real disappointed.
There you go.
you know.
I mean, it's all about.
Hey, look, we're General AG and I met 12, 13, 14 years ago. He was working on my opponent's campaign then. We built somewhat of a friendship relationship then. And a couple of years ago, after my illness, he reached out to me one night just out of the blue and was just, hey, I'm just checking on you. I know you've had a hard way to go. And a few weeks later, he called me and was, I'm hearing you're thinking about running for sheriff, and I want to talk to you about it. And here are some issues that I have that I'm concerned about, and we talked about it. And so I think that I think that he's just in agreement with me that we need to do something different from outside, and that I believe I'm the most qualified of the candidates. I think I have more experience, and I've managed people on a broader scale than any of my opponents in this race have, and I think he's making the right choice.
Right there, hold on.
Okay.
Right there. That's a lead in to something I wanted to get us to.
Yes, sir.
But I think it's the right place to put it in. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
We need to get this one out there, and I think
Okay.
you'll agree when I ask.
All right.
You've talked about being in leadership, leading large groups of people. I know you've at least been somewhat responsible for departmental budgets.
Sure. That's correct.
You know, our biggest single line item, or our biggest single expense, is the jail.
Sure. I think that every sheriff's office,
That's
that's what they face.
And what a lot of people don't realize is the number one job of the sheriff in the state of Tennessee is to
Manage
run
that
the jail.
Yeah. Statutorily, like I told you earlier, statutorily, under law, the only thing the sheriff has to do
Is
is
run the
run
jail.
the jail and serve the process of the courts, the papers that are issued through the courts.
That's
We don't have to stop cars. We don't have to answer calls.
It's-
Now, people are paying taxes, but statutorily, all we have to do is manage the jail and serve the process.
That is
And in
that's-
metropolitan areas in this state, Davidson County, I think Davidson County is the only one. The Davidson County Sheriff only oversees the jail and serves the process of the courts. They are
Yeah,
not
but-
out stopping cars, making,
That's when they brought they did
They
that, when they
did the
brought
Metro,
made it Metro and,
yeah,
I remember Clay cussing that,
yeah.
but,
And
you know,
sometimes,
it can make sense in a system that big.
sometimes I wish that, Tennessee elected jailers like Kentucky does.
So-
Take that, just let me enforce the law, but Tennessee is not that way. And so this is the burden that we're tasked with as the sheriff, and so that's what we'll do.
So, that's my question. It seems, you know, you've got a lot of experience in a supervisory position.
Mhm.
Whole lot of experience in investigating things.
Yes, sir.
Probably in arresting people,
Bunches of them.
bunches of them.
I'm still arresting them
Still arresting.
right now. I'm
okay.
still working, you know, while
I'm
we're
not, I'm not
campaigning.
volunteering.
Yeah, yeah. yeah.
Okay.
I've got a list of people. We're just checking them off one at a time down there in the
So,
office.
the, how do you plan on tackling the court? I mean, the jail.
The jail. I've had the opportunity, and I'm not selling any of those good folks out in there, but I've had the opportunity to talk to many of the employees inside the jail
Okay.
that work there. And I'm so glad that they came to us, and I want to ask every one of them that works there, if I haven't had the opportunity to talk to you, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm more interested in knowing what you need. I had one call me the other day. We talked for a while. They're concerned about some safety equipment and things in there. I do know that the training programs that the folks that are current leaders in the jail right now are doing a good job, I believe, getting the training up to date where hasn't been so good in the past for whatever reasons. They've just told me this is what we've implemented, and they've got some folks helping with the training there. You know, I'm concerned about the safety in there and the structure. My experience from inmates, from me working on the street, from defendants to inmate, bringing them to court, the court duties that I've had over the years, you know, transporting and working security in the courts, I've done that as well. I have found that if you are fair, firm, and consistent with people, that goes a long way. And from what I'm understanding, they're trying to be consistent in the jail right now. They're trying to be fair to people. I can assure you, if I'm the sheriff, we're going to be fair, firm, and consistent. And we're going to continue working with those good folks there that are in there taking care of that jail right now. We're going to work with all those folks to help get them whatever training they need. I think they're pretty good on staff. They tell me that they're fully staffed, is what I've been told. But the same thing there, we have to make sure if they have the right training and decent pay and a good atmosphere, if you have a good morale, you know, then people are likely to stay. I know my wife is a nurse, and her favorite job that she ever had was she was a CO for the Obion County Sheriff, for 2 sheriffs up there. And she said that was the most fun job that she ever had. I worried about her, you know, big as a minute to nothing, you know, and I'm thinking, man, they're going to chew you up and spit you out in there, you know. And so we got good folks there, and we're gonna work toward getting them what they need to be safer, to be better trained. We talk about getting into the jail, then that's one of the biggest expenses, you know, that's in the sheriff's budget, probably at least 50 or 60% of that, and it's uncontrollable sometimes.
I think the jail not such a large part that it's its own budget now.
The budgets are split, so this is the money we've allotted, this is what we plan, you know,
Right.
to run the jail. Of course, I think that the population in the jail is usually from 240. I think they have 300 and something the capability to hold 300 and something. I think usually those numbers are 240 to 260, 70, something like that, which is a lot. You know, that's a lot of people that we have to take care of. We have to see to their medical needs. You know, we have to see to their mental health. We have to see to the safety of the inmates, you know, as well as the safety of our officers. There's a lot to run in the jail. We've got good staff there now, and guys and girls in the jail, we're just going to keep on working to get you everything that you need.
Heather Vestal's asking, how do you see yourself solving the issue of people accused of lesser crimes singing in the county jail awaiting their time in court? Where does the problem lie with investigations, prosecutions, courts, judges?
Well, the burden of somebody sitting in jail, you know, that's awaiting a trial or doing a sentence. Of course, the sentences, there's, you know, you get sentenced, you get sentenced. I don't currently know of any issues, so if you have a very direct question, Heather, feel free to ask me. I may or may not be privy to it. Most crimes in Tennessee are eligible for bond. Bonds are not designed to punish. There's a structure. There is Tennessee code that sets what the bond limits are on misdemeanors and what they are on different class felonies. And there again, I'm confident that the district attorney generally makes a recommendation for a bond. They consider how many times you've ever failed to appear, what does your criminal history look like, what's your flight risk like, you know, certain things like that. What's the risk to society if you're out of jail? There's several things that they ask. I'm confident that our judges and the DA's office will do that properly and correctly. You know, my job is just to hold them there until they make bond or to serve their sentence is what that will be. So the answer for that, I think if there's an issue that something's not being done properly, I think the judges would call that out and say, you know, this isn't within the limits of the law. There were several parts to that. Did I miss something?
I think you
Okay.
covered it. No more questions
All right.
at the moment.
Let's get back to the yellow tablet.
Well, they're just taking stuff off my yellow
They
tablet.
are.
Checking it off.
That's what I was sitting here looking at. They're just taking stuff right off
That's
my yellow
okay.
tablet. Did y'all look at this?
Informed voters are good voters.
That's right.
fact. Constitutional positions. Sheriff is a political office. We do have places like Tennessee Sheriff Association, these other police, PBA, a lot of these organizations that are political. Unfortunately, a lot of them are run by politicians and not police. And we tend to end up butting heads with them from our business. Because they tend to think the Constitution is flexible, and we tend to think it's rigid.
I think it's a very strong document.
You know, we think when the word says shall not be infringed, they mean shall not be infringed, not whatever the hell some sheriff feels like at the moment. And we're going to have a lot of these issues come out in the next 4 years, probably
Sure.
next 3 years. There's going to be some serious constitutional issues coming up. We have one that come out of Gibson County right now in Hughes versus Lee.
Sure. The intent to go on
Right,
case.
where actually the state of Tennessee is actually right now in contempt of the Supreme Court of the United States because they won't fix it. Not only did we get the 3-judge panel ruling here out of Gibson County,
Sure.
we got the stay toned over. You know, they got to stay. We got the stay beat. Now the Supreme Court's issued a decision on another case very similar to Hughes versus Lee that says this is unconstitutional, but we're going to have places like Tennessee Sheriff Association, these other places coming out against us on this. As Sheriff of Gibson County, are you going to side with them or the people?
You're asking me, am I going to side with
the people or with the
political organizations? Well, my job as the sheriff is to enforce the law that the legislators put into place. but also to hear what the citizens of this county, what their concerns are. I'm very, very, if you don't think, if you don't know me,
And I know.
I'm a gun guy, man. I drive an old truck so I can buy as many guns as I want to buy. My wife and kids will vouch for that. And I believe in the Second Amendment fully and wholeheartedly. I believe that if more people armed themselves, there would be less criminals.
Well, John Locke
Okay.
proved that.
Now, I also have faith in the court systems and the judicial systems. I have faith in them. Sometimes I don't agree with them, but I have faith in them. I'm in full support of exactly what the Second Amendment says. Shall not be infringed, period, okay? Here's my thought, and I'm gonna probably lose some folks. Hopefully I'll gain as many as I lose in this opinion. I've been in for 31 years, going on 31 years. I have charged people with unlawful possession of a weapon with intent to go armed many times in my career. Legislation allowed for it. I will say that I have never had a law-abiding citizen with a gun that was dangerous to me. The unlawful citizen with a gun or a ball bat or a hammer or a knife or a screwdriver is the guy that's dangerous to all of us. And so I'm a huge proponent for good guys with guns aren't the problem. And, you know, you ask my wife, I don't go anywhere that I can't go armed.
I don't either.
Because I have the basic right to protect me and my family, and if you don't want me to come into your restaurant, if you don't want me to carry a gun in your restaurant, then I don't support you.
I would say you have
Exactly.
the
I don't do
basic
business there.
responsibility. Because if we look, we've got Supreme Court decisions everywhere else. It is not the police departments, the sheriff's departments, or anybody else's job to protect the individual citizen.
Yeah, we're trying to help, but when you need us, we're minutes away at best, and you don't have minutes.
Nope.
You know, I encourage our citizens. I would encourage our citizens as the sheriff to arm yourself and protect yourself. Don't be out. I'm not saying vigilante stuff. You know,
And-
we don't have the right to use lethal force to protect to stop somebody from stealing our four-wheeler.
No,
The old rascal, we want to shoot him, but you can't. Okay. You know,
No.
but
it's
that's our job to find your four-wheeler. And get it back for you.
When we talk about this, and that kind of gets into another spot. Hughes versus Lee, we're going to win that. We've already won it. It's just Bill Lee's going to have to. Him
Above
and Scamati, the Supreme Court's spoken.
above my pay grade.
But, we're also getting into this, we're going to be getting into self-defense in Tennessee, for example, is not a right. People don't realize that. It's a statute written into TCA.
Well, I kind of look at that different, Tom. I feel like that, of course, you and I, we agree that the Constitution promises us the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness.
And life being first.
Life being first. I'm pretty sure the Tennessee Constitution mimics that. I was looking at it today because I knew this was going to come up.
Tennessee does, but in our
So
TCA,
I look at it kind of like this.
But when we're up TCA, we wrote it in as a statute.
I kind of look at it like this, though. I kind of look at it like we've even ratified it a little stronger and provided statute to protect you to be able to use self-defense. Kind of how I look. I've worked some self-defense shootings, okay? I've worked police officer shootings, and, to our part, I've been interviewed by the TBI involved in these incidences, and I've cooperated with the TBI in these investigations, and I've worked shootings in my career between citizens that were justified shootings that resulted in homicides, that were justifiable homicides. And I believe that it is the duty of the law enforcement officer to do everything he can and apply the legislation that we're provided with through the General Assembly to say, is this, okay, this is a homicide, this is classified, if unfortunately somebody has to use lethal force
It's homicide.
to protect themselves, it's a homicide. You ask, what we're looking for, is this a criminal homicide or is this a justifiable homicide?
Right.
And so I kind of look at it like the legislation to the right to self-defense, the right to protect the third party, and things like that are just strengthened by the code. Now, I see where you're saying that we shouldn't have to have, I think what you're saying is
I think what we should have is a very simplified code. And go right back to our Constitution. It says you have the right to self-defense, period.
well, I agree.
I don't think we have to overcomplicate it.
Yeah. But I don't want to, I guess I don't want to get into I don't want my legislators mad at me. You know,
Oh, we have this discussion quite often.
I personally am okay, I'm okay with it being in statute because it also provides us a clear-cut guideline of what it takes to justify the use of lethal force. You know, there has to be an imminent threat. They have to have the ability to do it, you know, and the opportunity to do it. So you have to, a reasonable person has to be able to say, a reasonable person thinks, hey, I'm at risk of death or serious bodily injury.
And didn't they just amend that a few years ago to some type of sexual assault? Didn't they add,
So violent
didn't they-
sexual, yes, violent sexual
Didn't they add that,
offenses, yes.
actually add that verbiage in the
Yeah.
law?
Well, you know, in Arkansas right now, the guy who got arrested for killing his daughter's abductor, somebody abducted his daughter. I think there was an ongoing criminal case. I don't know all the details.
Now he's got his man elected sheriff.
Now he's fixing to get elected sheriff probably, you know.
That's, yes. I guess what we
What
get at
I'm saying
some
is,
of what-
do not come to my house and abduct my grandson or my wife or my children, or while we're out here at the street where I have the lawful right to be going into this restaurant and think that I'm not gonna fight you and protect my family. And I expect every citizen has the right to do that as well. I know I'm gonna get in trouble over that,
I
but
don't think so.
that's the way it is. Just the
I
way it
mean,
is.
if you want to take a constitutional position, I think you just did, personally.
I guess
Heard
I'm not
a couple of
messed up
things
about
in
there.
there Richard might yell about, but
I'm not messed up about there being legislation defining what it takes.
what I don't like about the statute, the way it's written, is how it talks about shall prosecute, shall do this, shall do that.
Well, I've had cases where we,
You know, I don't know. I think I like Mississippi's.
the police, if the police are involved in a shooting, generally it goes to, you know, once the agency does their internal part, the TBI does their part, the district attorney generally gets it and they generally present it to the grand jury to let the grand jury hear. I think there's a way that some cases are very difficult to navigate. I don't know that the DA has to represent them. I'm not an attorney. I don't know. But most of them in my career that I've seen happen have been presented.
I think you're saying something. In Mississippi, that's exactly how it works. Every shooting goes in front of the grand jury.
Yeah.
Period.
I can think of one or two in my career of officer-involved shootings that there's a way that the DA can basically not present it, but every time that's happened, they've always been very transparent
Well,
in their investigation and why they're not.
and I think the reason they do that, this has something to do with double jeopardy and other things applying
yeah.
to protect the officer
Mhm.
or to protect the civilian, because even the civilian shootings
Yeah,
would go in front of the grand jury, and if they refuse to return a true bill,
sure. I have a civilian involved shooting right now. I'm not going to say too much about it, but I've been working on it for nearly a year. It's been about 10 months, and we're waiting on evidence. And you know, bless the family's heart on both sides. We got one family that's dealing with a loss of a family member, and then one family that's dealing with, am I going to be in trouble? You know, have I done something wrong? And we're waiting. I've told both sides. We want to be as thorough as in this investigation as we can be. We're going to let the science prove the case. We have theories, and the science of it is going to prove it, one way or the other. You know, and so, and I'm confident that when we have all the scientific answers that we need from the crime lab and from the medical examiner's office, I'm confident that the right decisions will be made.
What, you got anything right now? All right. Trying to see what they've already handled.
You've answered a couple of these while answering some of the others, so
Okay. Yeah.
you're good right now.
Answer that. Give me just a second, folks.
We're checking off our homework list.
Yeah.
We did have a gentleman say something about you looking like Santa Claus.
You know, I about decided if this keeps growing, about October, I'm gonna let this start,
Grow out.
and I'm just gonna let it grow.
Get the red suit.
And I'm
You
gonna go buy me a red suit and a black belt and some black boots.
You have lots of Christmas gifts in here for
Yes.
all the good little boys and girls.
Yes.
I might just do it. Okay.
Oh.
This could get to a very interesting conversation.
Okay.
How do we drop crime numbers? I'm not talking about change reporting protocols. I'm not talking, what can we do as the sheriff's department, as citizens working with the sheriff's department, cooperating with the sheriff's department, as PDs cooperating with the sheriff's department? What can we do to drop crime numbers?
There are several things that we need to be doing.
I'm listening, brother.
Of course, I've already talked about a concerted effort between the agencies. We've just
Correct.
talked
We
about that.
talked
That's a
about
give
that.
me. We have to do that. Okay. We have to, as law enforcement officers, we have to, when we're making cases, we have to be thorough. We have to be fair in our investigations. We have to work on those cases and build the best cases that we can build. Okay. Working on bringing down the crime stats, you know, the activity. We have to be as proactive as we can be. Not a lot of times law enforcement is only reactive. We have to work to make sure that we're as proactive as we can be. There are also some other things that I think sometimes people don't think about. We're very fortunate, I believe, in Gibson County that we have, not only do we have our criminal courts, Judge Owens has a drug court, we have a veterans court, and he's just implemented a mental health court. Okay? These are all issues, the criminal activity, the drug offenses, the veteran court, the mental health court, all of these things are trying to address the individual problems of people with mental health problems. We all have a mental health problem. We'll let everybody in a little secret. We all have a mental health problem. How well do you cope with your mental health problem is how well do you survive in life, okay? Some people aren't managing their mental health very well, and they're making very poor decisions. And so the guy or girl who has, the man or woman who has severe mental health issues, maybe sometimes they haven't even been documented. They've not been diagnosed. And I believe that the mental health court is going to help us with that problem. Bravo to Judge Owens. I think we were the 23rd or 4th, something like that in the county, in the state of 95 counties, to bring that in there. So we have to address that problem. We have to continually address, so our veterans court, the way I understand, is our veterans are facing things. They come home, they have a lack of support in certain areas, and a lot of them are choosing to self-medicate. And if I had seen things like that, I know police officers and emergency first responders, firefighters, EMS people, nurses that self-medicate, doctors that self-medicate, because you cannot just see all these critical incidents one after another after another. You haven't finished processing this one, and you're in the middle of another one. Eventually, it's all going to build up on you. You know,
Well,
we have to educate. We have to work with. We have to work with every one of these systems, Tom. We have to make sure that we're doing the best we can do, and we have to. We have a responsibility as parents too to help educate our kids.
come on with that one.
I said something at a meeting the other night, and Shelley said, "Don't say that anymore." I said, "I said, Mama," she's shaking her head, "No, don't do it." Mamas and daddies, we have to be parents to our children, not their friends.
That's a fact.
Yes.
We have to be. It's this simple, folks. If you don't make sure that your child learns the difference in right and wrong as a child, then I will take on raising them as a law enforcement officer later. We will hold you accountable. And my 2.5-year-old grandson, he knows not to play in the garbage can. He knows not to go to the road. He knows not to push against the glass on the bifold doors. You're going to get hurt. And he knows that his grandmama's not going to spat them little legs, but he knows his granddaddy will. And he knows not to do those things because he knows there's a consequence for them. And so many times, we love them. You don't love you don't love your children and grandchildren any more than I love mine, I promise you. But we have to be parents, and we have to instruct them and bring them up to be respectful, productive, law-abiding citizens. We have to educate them on the drug dangers out here. Matt, you and I were talking earlier, we're pretty close in the same age. For me, growing up here in Gibson County, look, man, 35 years ago, if you were smoking a little weed, you were an outlaw.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's the drug kids. Don't be
Yeah.
over there.
You know?
Well, I grew
All
up
my
with
parents had to worry about really with me and my friends was where are they getting their alcohol that they're getting into, and when I find out who, I'm going to take care of it. But
Uncle Doyle's dead
look,
now.
folks out here today. Here's the thing: we're facing, and I'm doing I'm studying I'm doing a study right now that I got from a colleague that works through the state that provides us with our Narcan training, provides Narcan to all the law enforcement agencies, and goes around and does educational things. So they sent me some information on some new drugs. I'm working on that right now. There were 3, I think, in there that I had heard of 2 of them before, and they're going to be the next thing. It's all lab created stuff that you don't know what you're getting. Okay, folks out here today, if you have a real need to manage your pain, go to the doctor. Don't let somebody give you a pill that says, "Hey, this is a hydrocodone." That thing may be fentanyl. And here's what I tell the people that I deal with on the street. I don't care how good your grandmama or your mama or your wife, how good a cook they are making chocolate chip cookies. They're stirring up the chocolate chip cookie batter. One cookie is going to have more chocolate chips in it than the other one. And when you're stirring up fentanyl in a bucket in the garage and putting it in a pill press, I promise you, one of those little tablets has got more fentanyl in it than the other one does.
Yep.
And that's how come we're dealing with these accidental overdose deaths. Now, I'm seeing from the numbers, we've seen a little decline. And I don't know I don't know if we're successfully, I guess it's a combination of we're working on fighting the fentanyl, keeping those numbers down, but people are more educated. They less risk. I won't try that. I don't know what it is. And then 2, there's so much Narcan available out there for people. And I couldn't tell you how many people who are dealing with this addiction have used Narcan time and time and time again to save their life. And I'm going to tell you something, folks, one of these days it's not going to work. So we've got a lot that we can do.
And I'm,
And there again, it's a big concerted effort of, we've got to work with these courts and these different programs. We have to educate our children. We have to continue to educate the adults that are addiction is a terrible thing for people to fight. You know, I'm addicted to food and Diet Mountain Dew and Diet Dr. Pepper. I couldn't imagine fighting a stronger addiction, you know, something that is really controlling. And nobody wants to be addicted. And so, but we got to start at home. We got to start with our young kids. It's our job as parents to make sure that they know how dangerous it is, and to bring them up, being good, respectful, productive people.
and not be,
Thank God that my kids have. I'm not saying they're perfect kids, but man, we've been so blessed to have two good boys that have. I mean, one of them's a cop, and one of them's making a lawyer and wants to be a prosecutor. He wants to prosecute.
I just say thank God for Daddy's belt.
Yes. Well, what I said that I got in trouble for is they need more Bible and more belt on their butt.
You know,
She's
Chase
shaking her
Camp.
head.
Daddy's belt kept me on the straight and narrow.
You know, there's another resource that I think gets overlooked here. The Milan Prevention Coalition has all types of educational programs and access to help people get help that they need. I'm a chair. I'm the law enforcement chair with that. And so the way they're chartered is why they're still the Milan Prevention Coalition, but they serve the whole county. You know, and back when we would have been in school, we had Just Say No. You didn't have an option. If Just Say No meeting is tomorrow, you're attending the Just Say No meeting. If the 4-H meeting is tomorrow at school, you're attending the 4-H meeting. You know, you don't have an option.
In Weakley County, going way back, and we're gonna get off this pretty quick, but a guy named Clint Monroe, his dad was one druggist there in town, Jerry Dale Monroe, decided he was going to get SAD started in Weakley County. And then I came in, he brought me in, and it was him and David Durden and myself. Anyway, we started the SAD programs all the way through Weakley County. We started a SAD program at every school in Weakley County back at that time. And I was working with Governor McWhorter on the Governor's Alliance for Drug-Free Tennessee.
Yeah.
As I don't remember. He gave me a title, but I don't remember what it was. Something about high school liaison. I said, I don't remember.
Right.
Been too long ago.
Just a few years ago.
But
Couple.
I remember I'm older than you.
Not by a lot.
But anyway, that's all here. But you're right. You know, things like that. But let me ask you this: those are all things. Once we get somebody in the system, somebody's got to get in the system, or voluntarily go to one of these.
Talking about for treatments.
Treatments.
Yeah.
How do we impact crime numbers? Yes, once we get repeat offenders, we get people out of this, off the street, out of the circuit, right? We start bringing down crime numbers. But what can we do other than that? And let me give you some kind of where I'm thinking. Okay, one of the most proven methods for bringing crime numbers down in a given area is traffic.
Yeah.
Work traffic.
Yeah.
Pull cars over.
Probably most of most people who are wanted have outstanding warrants. Drugs that are being brought into town is being transported, delivered somewhere. You know, that you have a really good chance to try to intervene with that during traffic stops. You know, you stop a car for whatever reason, for whatever lawful reason, and then we have the right to identify the people in that car, and then we find out, then next thing you know, we're going to have led to enough probable cause to search or get consent. And yeah, I agree.
Well, I think working traffic does several things. One, yes, everything you just said is a fact.
It's a deterrent too. If
It's
I
a
come through here, they're going
deterrent.
to get me.
So
They're
you
looking
s-
for me.
So, or just like me, I'm a law-abiding citizen. I'm not, going to be out doing anything wrong. But I promise you, when I hit Gibson city limits, my speed number is
check
5
out.
miles under the speed limit, and
Yeah.
and it's cruise control.
Yeah.
Okay, they don't. So what happens? You create more safe, traffic gets safer.
Well, throughout this campaign, we're everywhere, and we get even not only just that, Tom. We get complaints of um, the mayor at Medina was telling me the other day of all the complaints that he gets of the county roads coming into town into Medina. That he'll get complaints. And he's like, I just have city police officers, you know. Now, this is just something he shared with me. You know,
Right.
of course, we got a lot of students over there at South Gibson, and you know, I know a lot. Typically, a lot of sheriffs uh, shy away from traffic stops, and but you know, it's our job as law enforcement officers to enforce all the law.
And,
You know, I'm not saying I'm turning deputies into highway patrolmen. That's
no,
not the thing here.
no,
But we're gonna
but
number one thing we're gonna do as the sheriff is I'm gonna enforce the law, all the law, equally and fairly for everybody.
but
We have a new
yes,
question online.
Canines are a great asset. This is from Jacob Leach. He said canines are a great asset to law enforcement. What are your plans for the canines and a good trainer to be head of the canine unit and to improve the canine division at Gibson County Sheriff's Office?
That comes up a lot. The question of canines. I'm going to be absolutely transparent and honest. My understanding is there's currently 4 canines at the sheriff's office. Some of them are dual purpose dogs, narcotics, patrol, and tracking. I think some of them are just narcotics dogs. Um, as an administrator, you have to look at the bang for the buck, and then you have to ensure that those dogs are getting the training and the certifications that they need along with their handlers. You know, there's a whole different set of rules for those guys. As of right now, I would say that I would intend for us to keep canines active. We have 2 canines at Weakley County. One is a narcotics detecting dog. Then one we have is a tracking dog. And we've located children and senior citizens that were Silver Alert folks that, you know, so they're crucial because they can, if we don't contaminate the area,
right.
those dogs can find what we're looking for, especially if we're looking for little kids or seniors who have gotten lost.
Okay. Steve Webb wants to know, as sheriff, what efforts would you make to keep our many schools and churches safe?
Currently, we have Steve and we started about the same time. We were talking the other day. I think maybe I got just a few months in on it, you know, in time. You know, currently we have school resource officers in every school. We have the money allotted from the state to do that. I'm glad that it's there. I hope that it will continue to be subsidied to us so that we, you know, it's a huge burden. I think we have 10 or 11 in Gibson County school resource officers.
You keep answering questions, folks. A lot of y'all that watch normally know I am diabetic, so there's sometimes I just have to get up and go.
I think that
Wouldn't be the 2 cups of coffee he's had.
so the schools, what I want to do with the schools is see to it that those guys have the best training available to them, the best leadership that I'm going to provide them with the best leadership that I can possibly provide them with. We're going to make sure that they have the proper equipment that they need for the schools, and we're going to work with the superintendents of the school districts and the principals to meet their individual needs at each location. There may be, you know, Yorkville may have a need for something that Medina doesn't need. South Gibson may have needs that Dyer doesn't need. You know, as far as I know, Milan and Humboldt and Trenton are able to provide their own officers through their departments for the school resource officers. But we would absolutely want to work with those good agencies and their respective chiefs and officers to make sure that those schools stay as safe as they can. Every school in this county falls under the jurisdiction of the sheriff, and we're not trying to take it away from those town police departments. We just want to work with you to make
Right.
sure that they're safe. As far as the churches go, of course, we want to make sure that we're patrolling while that people are at their respective churches during their worship time, to make sure that nobody's breaking in their cars while you're inside the church building and left unattended. I know that security teams have been a growing thing over the years for church congregations. I encourage them to have security teams. Who would have ever thought that we would need security teams in a church? That we have to have people in there to protect us. But then why would we not think so? They persecuted the Christians thousands of years ago. So why would we think we didn't have to be worried about
Christianity
that?
come out of persecution.
Yeah. And so we would also want to work with the individual congregations and work together with them to implement some training programs to help get training programs provided, because some congregations may not be able to afford to send somebody off to schools, and we would be willing to implement a program to help get a threat assessment in there and get a security plan in place for the church congregations. There's a lot of congregations, a lot of work to do. And so I need you guys to elect me year after year, term after term after term, so we can get it all done.
I would be willing to volunteer some time to help in that.
Well, I think, and I think there's, we haven't got into the constables yet.
Right.
I was sitting here thinking the same thing.
But, there's a lot, I'm just gonna go into that from that. So that's my plan right now, for the schools and the churches. And of course, once we're in there and we start hearing what the real needs are from the principals and the superintendents and the teachers and the other staff there and the church congregations, then we can really fine tune that plan of, here's what we can do for you. Let us even reach out. Maybe we could host maybe be a thing where we could coordinate with folks like yourself to get trainers to come in and host a training session.
Because there's a lot of people.
And one weekend of training isn't going to get us ready
No.
for that,
No, I mean,
And that's the big thing, is there's not a easy one day, let's go shoot a little paper target and get ready, but we can build effective programs.
I mean,
And then going into that, not to cut you off, touching on the constables like Mr. Larry asked about earlier, those guys are out here getting elected, putting out the money. I do not know why we would not, as a county, utilize them, especially, look at all the events that the county has. The Strawberry Festival, ball games. Each little town has their own event. Look, they're authorized by state law. If the county commission has not stripped the constables, and they have not in Gibson County, they have law enforcement power. They have the power of arrest. They don't answer to the sheriff.
actually, the constable can arrest the sheriff.
They have the same authority to execute process and to arrest as any other peace officer in the state. They just have to get their training in order to act on their law enforcement powers.
Right.
That's provided by statute too. Used to, Mr. Walter had he was over the reserve program for the sheriff's office for years. When I was a young cop trying to get in, that was a good way to get started. I personally want to implement a reserve program again for multiple reasons. One, folks that want to provide the county with a service, let me help, I want to help. We'll screen those folks. They'll have to meet the same qualifications a regular police officer would have to make to get certified if I get to implement this program the way I want to. And they're not going to be out here working by themselves. They're going to have to work with certified officers. And it gives us an opportunity too to screen possible new hires recruitments. We're going to get to work with you. We're going to get to see how you respond to things. and it will give people who think they want to get into law enforcement an opportunity to see,
Firsthand look.
do I really want to do this? You may try it and decide this is not for me. So those are a couple of more things that I want to implement that I think are just, the statute provides that we can have a reserve program, and I want to implement one.
I think there's a lot of volunteerism in Gibson County that's untapped.
I think so too. There are countless organizations in this county. I don't want to name one or two and leave out three more, but that have counseling services available for people, critical incident training, drug therapy programs, parenting programs that are outside of the courts. You know, there are many resources for that, the availability for it. You know, just like I talked about the Prevention Coalition a while ago, countless resources and all those folks there are some people on the payroll, but the board is made up of all kinds of people that are volunteering their time and want to try to make Gibson County a better place to be. You know, we have a great county full of great people. We're just like everybody else. We are all facing problems we have to deal with.
You got anything over, Steph?
I do not.
We've covered mine.
We covered quite a bit in an hour and a half.
Fantastic. Well, I hope that we were, for all the folks out in Facebook land and YouTube land, I hope that we were able to give you, to answer your question, to give you the answer that you were looking for. Maybe I didn't give you the answer you were looking for, but I hope that I answered it for you.
Hope you got an answer one way or the other.
Yeah, there you go. I'm confident I gave you the right answer. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, this is kind of corny, but it's hard for you to give anything other than the right answer.
Yeah, that's right. Look here.
That's right.
Make the right choice. So we don't have any more questions that's come in real quick?
All right, so.
Thank you so much for having us.
Oh,
we
you
got
gotta
one more
wait.
segment.
Oh, we have a whole nother?
Just a quick one.
Oh, okay.
You gotta say bye to YouTube.
No, because we're not going to be
Oh,
handling.
you're right. Yeah, you ain't
Everybody
picking
just
that
we
up.
hang
figured
around for
totally
the
shift
cool gun
gears.
section.
Oh, yeah. As we're getting ready to do that, I just want to encourage everybody, please, early voting starts April the 15th. Primary election, only 2 candidates for this primary election for sheriff. Me and one more guy. When you get ready to go vote, I want you to ask yourself this major question. I always try to take the high road, but I want you to ask yourself this question. If you have a question, if you're not locked in, if your mind's not made up yet, I want you to ask yourself this. There's going to be a new sheriff. Do you want to continue the same pattern that we're in? Or do you want to go in a new and positive direction? And the only way to do that is to make the right choice. I'm the guy who can put that sheriff's office in a new and positive direction. And I would appreciate you consider me for your vote. I will work hard for you every day, and I will not let you down.
Well, Stephanie.
We do have a question.
Okay.
Chase
We'll
Kemp.
knock these things down.
Would you think it would be a good idea to let some inmates the chance to work outside of the jail if they had a good background for the time that they have been in there and do not have a very big and bad record?
So I'm just guessing that question is based on a trustee status. Is that the question? I'm wondering.
Is it trustee or is it like work release?
Yeah, that's I don't understand. Is it a
Okay,
so some
well,
sentences are eligible for work release programs.
Mhm.
some sentences aren't even eligible for trustee status. My understanding is 100% sentences, if you have to serve, if you get an 8-year sentence and you have to serve 100% of that, my understanding is you're not even allowed to be a trustee because you get credit for good days that you work. And under those circumstances, those folks aren't allowed to be a trustee anymore because they can't earn good days.
Right.
The only option to that is you have to, I think there is an option that you pay that inmate for their service that they do, their
Credit
time
to
that they
like
work.
their
Yeah,
commissary
but you have to
councils.
give them, a cash payment. And so, of course, that's a budget strain. As far as work programs, work releases, things like that, if statutorily they meet the requirements and if the judges and the DAs have that, if they approve them
Right.
for that, then of course I'm going to go with whatever court order that we get
I can remember
from the courts.
back in, you get a guy for some little something, nickel bag,
Yeah.
whatever. Judge gives him 30 days and he's got to serve some. Judge says, okay, you can leave jail Monday through Friday because this is your work day and your employer needs you.
Yeah. Yeah. Some sentences you're allowed to do weekends to
Yeah.
serve your time out, and some you don't. Some of them are consecutive days. So that's a little above my general knowledge of what they all are, but the
Right.
courts know.
Chase, he said, for work release to help farmers and people that are low on hands to help them with daily chores.
Sure. So they have to be an employee. We can't just let them out to come. You need help raking the yard.
Yeah.
If you're an employee there,
That don't work out well.
that we've seen that's not a successful program. Gets people in trouble. If they have employment and they are qualified statutorily and the courts approve it, then I have no issue with it. But it has to be court approved and it has to meet the statute.
It's kind of like what we were just talking about. You get these guys have this little sentence or whatever.
Yeah.
They're intricate to their job, and it's going to cause the business a hardship.
Yeah.
DA judge may say, hey, yeah, you can go to work, but you got to be back at the jail by.
Yeah.
Like I said, that's normally those people are just some little. Oops.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We promised you last week that we would come up with a really, really cool gun to end the night with.
All of them are pretty cool, really.
Okay, so last week we did it. We had an 1853 Colt. Actually made in 1853. And we brought it out, and I was like, okay, what am I going to pull? What am I going to come up with that's going to top this cool gun of the night?
Right.
Just don't touch it and we'll be all right.
So you have to kind of swivel your cameras, I think.
All right.
So since we're not going to cut YouTube off,
Sure.
okay, and YouTubers, if we touch a gun on YouTube Live, they cut the feed.
Yes. So we're not touching it.
Wow.
They're looking at it right now.
So what you see in front of you is a Vickers water-cooled machine gun from that was made about 1916.
Continuity of fire.
Yes. Now these guns are legendary.
Talk about high capacity.
They run off a 200. I can do this. They run off. This is a canvas belt with 303 Brit ammunition. This is it's a 250 round belt that fed it.
Okay.
They were rated as a 3-man gun. It usually took about 6.
Okay,
to
I'm going to
carry
turn
the
it
gun,
back over
shoot
here.
the gun, load the gun. But this traces back to the very, very first machine gun, which was made by an American named Hiram Maxim. Some people may have heard of Maxim because, he and Edison had a really big fight over the light bulb. Which one actually invented it? But this goes back to the Maxim, which was in probably the 1880s when Hiram Maxim came out with the very first machine gun. Um, he got the guy was kind of eccentric. I don't know. He got mad about something and moved to England. When he got to England, he went into business with Vickers, and they created a company, and they worked from about 1896 forward on the rebuild, taking Hiram Maxim's machine gun and redoing things. And along about 1911, Maxim retired or left the board of directors. 1912, the English adopted this as their machine gun, and it served continuously until 1968. And has shown up as recently as the war in Ukraine. This is the basic design. It spawned other designs and other calibers. This is the original. It's a water-cooled gun. So you had a bucket, or looked like a gas can, metal gas can. It was a water bucket. It had a hose.
We've got both of those over here.
Hooks into the gun, and as the gun shoots, it pulls the water up out of the bucket and circulates it inside the shroud that keeps the barrel cool. So it's called a water-cooled machine gun.
It's like a water-cooled system for a car.
Exactly.
Just pumping the water through.
Just pumping the
less the fan and the radiator.
right. It's just using the. I forget how it done. I looked at 2 or 3 diagrams of how it worked today,
Yeah.
but I didn't.
What do you know what the rate of fire was? How many rounds a minute? Do you have it? Do you know right off?
800 initially. Wasn't real fast. I mean, but no, we're talking about the earliest machine
Sure.
guns.
Yeah.
So you're going from about. Okay, we're talking about 1885. 1870. What was the Little Bighorn?
Yeah.
78.
Something.
Ju-
Yeah.
Just a very few years from single shot Springfields
Yeah.
that we were armed with it, the Little Bighorn,
Yeah.
to this,
To
to a working machine gun.
a repeating machine gun.
So we're taking big steps in little bits of time. And then this, of course, the original Hiram had a brass casing, had a brass sleeve for the water. One of the things Vickers did later with this model, with the Vickers model, is changed it to a corrugated metal and dropped lots and lots of weight.
Weight off of it.
And he inverted the firing mechanism, which allowed it to be slimmer and take up less room and dropped even more weight. So, now you're down to a gun, it only takes 6 guys to carry.
What does this whole apparatus, Tom, weigh? Do you know right off?
A lot. I can tell you.
If you pick that whole thing up right now, you're over 100 pounds.
It took me and Chris both
So
to
this is
move it.
1916 model year.
Of course, now this gun,
Nearly 30-06 firepower. 303 is pretty close to that, isn't it?
303 is pretty close. Actually, there were some made in the U.S. in 30-06. It took a little changing in the mechanism because the 303, of course, is a rimmed cartridge. I know you guys can't see this, but there's actually a rim on the cartridge.
Yeah.
And the 30-06 doesn't have this rim, it's rebated. So it feeds through magazines better. It's actually the last rim cartridge that the British used. This gun coming online when it did actually kept the 303 in the British inventory because they were trying to go to a rebated rim. But now that they could have this machine gun, they stayed with the Enfield battle rifle.
When can we shoot it?
This one, unfortunately, because of federal law, is the decom.
Okay.
You cannot load a round into it. In 1986, they signed a law that said any machine gun that's not on the registry prior to it was March of '86, was now non-transferable. So, you know, if we get the big beautiful bill done, we get the suppressors, win the suppressor fight, win that fight,
Sure.
we'll go for machine guns next.
Looks like it would be a lot of fun. Shooting it, not getting shot at with it.
And
Definitely.
we, you know, I'm gonna be honest, I've looked at these in the past, see, you know, what it would take to build one in a semi-automatic version. And it just takes more money than I can come up with.
Sure.
Just to build one of those right now in a semi-automatic version, operational, probably cost you $30,000 to build that one. Now, if you got to build more of them, of course they get cheaper. But to build that first one, but these guys are amazing. They were so tough. There was a incident in August 1916 where the British 100th Company of machine gunners had their 10 guns. What?
Jody Wright said y'all want to deter crime by appearance, mount that gun on a cap, and ride in particularly high crime area. Problem solved.
I like it.
Did he say Cole said that?
Jody.
Jody did? That's my brother.
Hey, we call them Tipman brothers.
Well, you know, the Wright brothers will ride again.
We call them Tipman brothers. They're making a modern Gatling gun.
They're really cool.
Runs off Glock mags.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I think this will have more firepower.
Well, yeah.
So
Yeah.
we get to this the British 100th Company of Machine Guns. They held a position for 12 hours. They laid down uninterrupted fire out of 10 guns for 12 hours. They used 100 different barrels because they had to carry spare barrels. Fired over 1 million rounds in that 12 hours. Not one gun malfunctioned.
Of this gun.
You did dig in there and do a lot of research today.
Talk about reliability.
You got 10 guns running 1 million rounds in 12 hours and not one malfunction?
Yeah.
That's,
Wow.
yeah. I had to go back and look that up like 5 different places. You know, most guns I can do, most stuff we do, I can come out here and I don't even have to research. I just come out here and do it.
Yeah.
You know, with doing the Vickers today, I'll be honest, I had to research this gun because, you know, it's like, okay, it's a Vickers, it's made in England, it's 303. This is one of the early ones with the later tripod, and that's what I can tell you.
Yeah.
So I had to go do a little bit of research on it today.
It's a
And
neat
started
piece.
finding some things like there's stories all over through World War I, World War II,
Sure.
where they were using these guns and they were just doing like that story. Just keep shooting.
Yeah.
Mount the barrel, put another barrel on it, keep shooting.
Well, thinking back to what Jody said, you know, when you asked me that question about bringing down the crime, that'll do it, won't it? Yeah.
I think that would definitely do it.
It would have people thinking about behaving.
I would
It's had
hope.
my attention since we got here.
Well, you just like it because it's cool.
It is cool.
But yeah, this gun served from 1912 to 1968. And variations of it still serving. It was also, get this, it was the first gun ever mounted on an airplane.
This gun, this type.
One of the things Maxim wanted to do, Maxim wanted to build airplanes. Now, he's before the Wright brothers. And he designed and he tried to build a helicopter somewhere in the mid 1800s. He tried to build a helicopter with steam engines. And got it off the ground. But this gun fired from a closed breech position. They were able to time this gun with the propellers on the front of the plane so that you didn't shoot the propeller
Yeah.
while you were firing the gun, which is contemporary at the time. The Lewis gun,
I could see where that could be a problem.
the Lewis gun
Just a
fired from
little
an
bit.
open breech and you just couldn't time it, so they
Yeah.
ended up putting those on top of the plane, shooting over.
Yeah.
But when you see them coming through in the old movies with the biplanes and stuff, and the guys in there with, that's what he's shooting, is an old Vickers.
Yeah. Cool.
So I hope, guys, that I have supplied a really cool gun for tonight.
You have
At least as cool as the one we had last week.
I think it tops it.
I do too.
But you had to have like 6 guys to do one of these things. One guy carried the gun. They'd carry the tripod. Somebody else would carry the ammo. And somebody else would carry the spare parts.
Yeah.
But
Well, there again, that was a bunch of folks working as a team for the common goal. That's what we're trying to do here.
and you know, apparently it was very, very successful, because here we are in 2026 still marveling at it,
Yeah.
and we can't make a machine gun run that well. If you stop and think about it, can we build 10 machine guns that you can shoot for 12 hours continuously, fire over 1 million rounds, and not have a malfunction?
Yeah.
I can't think of a current one on the market.
That's what we're going to do with the sheriff's office. We're going to turn it into a fine-tuned machine that's going to work around the clock and not malfunction.
Well, that works for me.
That'd be great.
Guys,
We can do it. We just need all their help.
hope you guys have enjoyed it tonight. I hope you're able to get your questions answered. Hope we're able to give you a lot of information. And don't forget, get out and vote.
Absolutely.
Okay? If you cannot complain, you cannot bitch and moan about the condition of the world if you don't do something when you have the chance. And that's cast a vote.
I think there's a deadline too. I want to mention there's a deadline. I think if you're not registered to vote, I think the deadline is April 5th. I'm probably wrong. That just sticks in my head for some reason. But if you're not registered, call the Election Commission office. I'm pretty sure you can do it online. If you don't want to do it online, give us a call or a text. 731-445-1571 is my personal cell number. If you don't want to do it online, shoot us a text or give us a call, and we'll bring you the old-fashioned paper and sign you up and turn it in for you. And then that way everybody can have the chance to vote. But we've got service members who went and fought to defend our Constitution so we can have free and open and fair elections. And it's so important. I think voting in the local election, I've met so many people that say, I only vote in the big elections. And I think the local elections probably affect us more immediately than the big ones do.
Had that conversation with somebody today. I was like, I vote the presidential election. That's great.
I've had several people tell me that. Campaigning.
What we're voting on locally has more impact on you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to talk about the personal impact it has on your life, what's happening on a local basis has more direct impact.
I tell you, it's very humbling. You're out here working every spare minute that we have. We are, trying to meet as many people as we can. We meet lots and lots of good folks all over this county, and there are people that don't know who the sheriff is. They don't understand the process of the primaries and the general election. They don't understand that process. A lot of folks don't. We try to share that with them. A lot of folks that we talk to, they don't know if the sheriff is the sheriff of one town or the county. So we try to share that information with them, and I'm not saying that to belittle anybody. There's just a lot of folks that don't have the need. They think, well, I'm not in trouble, and I don't have any problems. I don't need them, and I say on the contrary, you need to, you need to know who your local officials are, and we're available to you, and please get out there and vote. So that deadline, there's a deadline before. If you miss that deadline, then I think you can't vote. You can't run up the day before the election and get registered to vote.
Right, there's always a registration deadline.
Yeah, you have to get your registration done.
But what you're saying goes back to something I think you and I've had a lot of conversations today. but I think it was you and I. They don't teach civics anymore.
No, we did. We talked about that earlier. Yeah.
You know, that's where you learned. At least when I was in school, it's when you learned about county government, state
Yeah.
government, city government, federal government, how to be a citizen. What
Yeah.
and that's just been eliminated from our schools.
Yeah, and life is so hectic and busy that what our kids don't get in school. There again, as parents, it's our job to try to teach our kids the value of this and how important it is and how it's going to affect you. You may think when you're 18, we've met a lot of young folks just out of school that are interested there. They're interested in the big elections. We've met a lot of good young folks that are interested in this local election, and I'm glad that they are.
Me too.
I just hope they make the right choice.
That we will find out about.
We've got a lot of
in,
good. We've got a lot of good support, and we thank everybody out there, and thank you to all my family who works on this every day. I couldn't do it without y'all.
Rodney, I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you talking with me.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the questions. And thank
I hope
everybody
you
out
feel
there.
like it was worth your time.
It was. I enjoyed it. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and maybe we can do this again.
What I would like to do is right before early voting, have you and Cody both at the table and do it in a debate format.
Just get the boxing gloves out and go at it.
Hey, that's up to y'all, man. I'm gonna be over here.
I'm just kidding.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome tonight in the octagon.
It is nothing about it personal. It's all about the election.
But I would love to see it, see something in the debate. And
Of course, that's coming up quick.
Yes, it is.
It
we're
may
talking
be,
about what, another week or so.
Well, yeah, early voting starts the 15th. So, what, three weeks till early voting?
And I would even say, so because you believe, I don't believe in gotcha questions or anything
Sure.
else. Hell, I give both campaigns the questions before.
Yeah.
Y'all go get your books and answer something.
Yeah.
Write them down.
Yeah. Well, I like the opportunity for folks to ask us questions too, because I think it gives us the opportunity to show, gives me the opportunity to show people, throw something at me, because out here in the real world at the job, I'm going to have to make decisions. And whoever is in office is going to have to make very difficult decisions, and you're going to have to run with that decision you make.
'Cause what we're trying to do here with WHMC is just give the people of Gibson County a chance to hear from, talk to, communicate with the folks that want to be their sheriff.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good format, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I want to encourage everybody to please support local business. Those tax dollars spent in the county, a lot of that money gets to stay in the county. And my dad was a local business owner. We got to eat and have Christmas and birthdays and things because people supported local business. And so I believe in supporting and taking care of our local businesses.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to go home and have a ham sandwich and some Lay's tater chips.
That's
People support the local business.
Yep. There you go.
Good.
All right.
All right, thanks. Thank you guys so much. We'll be back hopefully Thursday. We will be here Thursday night. Whether I will be participating or not, we don't know. But if nothing else, you'll have Chloe, because I do have oral surgeon appointment Thursday. I don't know if they're going to be cutting, drilling, or what.
Good luck with that.
So Chloe will, if nothing else, Chloe and Steph will be here. And they'll have a good show for you if I'm not.
You have faith in us, don't you?
I do.
They'll do fine.
So guys, until we talk again, peace, love, and hot wings.